Arduino for Beginners, Episode 8, the while loop. So in the last tutorial, we went over the for loop, and before that we went over digital outputs, inputs, analog. We went over tones. Now we are actually going to build a project, something you can actually play with and have some fun with. And this is going to be mainly to demonstrate how the while loop works. But what I have here is a little like piano, little keyboard that uses the Arduino tones, and depending on which button you push, let me bring the microphone up here so you can hear a little better, and I'll go all the way down the line. Now this isn't too complicated to put together. I went ahead and already assembled it because it's not complicated, but it's going to take a couple of minutes. Now what I have are 10 push buttons. If you're a little short on push buttons, you don't have to use 10. They are actually cheap and inexpensive to buy. But what I have is one side of the button is connected to ground. Now when we were using buttons a while back, doing a digital read, we were checking to see if the button went high. Well, this time what we're doing is we're seeing if it goes low. I actually had a person that was leaving some weird comments. He just didn't understand the fact that I was reading the button high. There's more than one way to do it. You can read if the button's high or if it goes low. So this time we're doing is we're seeing if the button goes low. So we're doing a digital read on these pins. And what it is there is power being put to them right now. And when you push it, it brings it down to ground. And that makes the tone that's associated with that pin to be played. So like I said, the one side goes to ground and the other side of the switch goes to your Arduino board. And I used pins 2 through 12. And yes, there is only 10 push buttons. Pin 11, which is a PWM pin, that is what the speaker is connected to, so I skipped that and put the final button on pin 12 itself, and then connected the speaker here to digital pin 11 because that's a PWM pin, and you have to use a PWM pin for your tones. Now, as you can see, this isn't hard to set up. Shouldn't take you long, and if you want to try this and you don't have 10 buttons, just go ahead and use however many buttons you got. You could also, if you didn't have any buttons, is you could set this up and then have your leads, and then if you put them to a ground, you can see it will make it produce the tone as if you were pushing the button. So that's an option for you. Alright, well, let's go over to the computer and we'll take a look at the code for this. It's not too complicated, but this is the longest sketch that we've done so far in this tutorial because we're using a bunch of while loops, and we get over there. There is other ways this could have been done, but I wanted to demonstrate the while loop, and it does work for this okay, so that's what I went ahead and did, is use the while loop. And then we're also going to take a look at the pull up for the pin mode, which is something new as well. So, all right, I'll catch you over at the computer in just a moment. Okay, I have the Arduino IDE opened up here and the sketch loaded up. Now I went ahead and already typed it all in because it is a little long and I didn't want this video just to go on forever. Now, this sketch, the code, you can find this on the website. Look in the description below, you'll find a link to this project's webpage. And you could go ahead and just copy and paste this in the Arduino IDE. I do normally recommend that you type it in because it does help you learn. But this is kind of a long one and it's basic. So just to get you going, just go ahead and copy and paste it in. Alright, well, what we got here first is we're defining all our button pins, and I just named them button 1 through button 10. And then I've got, of course, we go from pin 2 to pin 12, and we skip right here. I even put it in there, skip pin 11, save that for your speaker. Then we're doing an integer here, and this is how we're going to store the value for testing if the pin is high or low. Now, when the button is not pushed, the pin is high. When you push the button, it connects it to ground and brings it down to low. And as you can see right here in the void setup, we're setting all of them. We're setting the pin mode to an input, and we're activating the pull-up resistors that are inside the Arduino. So what it's doing is it's pulling that pin up inside to high. So it's high, and it's got its own resistors built in. That's why we don't have to connect, have any resistors on the breadboard. So we're doing the pin mode for all 10 buttons. Then down in the void loop, we're just doing a digital read, and we're setting that integer v1, which stands for value 1. Now it starts out high, but if it reads it, and then if it detects it's low, so like the if statement, you'd have your if, and then you'd have your statement of what to do if that happened. Well, this, how it works, is it just stays here while it's reading that that's low. So the pin starts out as being high, so you push the button number 1, and this detects that, well, it just went low. So it plays a tone of 1000 hertz on pin 11, and then it reads, the digital reads the button, and if it's still low, it just stays in here. It doesn't go anywhere. When you let off the button, then it'll read it's high, and it will switch V1 back to high, not low. And then what it'll do is it'll go all the way through this, and then back to the beginning. Well, actually, it'll go all the way through this, and down here at the end we have the no tone, so it stops the tone. Now, as you see, I've only got one integer for testing if it's high or low, because when this is running through, you can only play one button at a time. You can only have one tone playing at a time. So there was no reason to have 10 different values, V1s. You can just use the same one, because if we're doing a digital read, and it goes through each one of digital reads, if button 2 becomes high, then while it stays here, it doesn't go down and play the 800 hertz or up here play the 1000 hertz. It just locks into here, and it will stay and continue to play 900 on pin 11 until it reads that pin has went high again, and then it'll cycle through. I hope that made sense to you. If you'd like a little more information on that, just remember you click up here on the help and then click on reference, and the guide's not too bad. It has some good information. I'm hoping you understand how this works. I mean, you could go through and have 10 different, you'd have V1 through V10 and digital read, but it's useless because only one tone can be played at a time. Therefore, you only need to have one variable to store if it's high or low. And you can also use for low, you could use a 0 here, and then for high, you could use, it'd be a 1. But low and high works as well. You could also do this with a Boolean, doing a true and false statement, but we haven't got into the Booleans. We will get into it later on in the series. That's why I just went ahead and used an integer for now. But then, of course, we go through and we have all 10 buttons. Now, if you don't have the 10 buttons, you're only going to do 2, 3, you can just load the sketch. Even if the buttons aren't there, it ain't going to affect anything. Or, you know, you could just eliminate, you know, you only had 4 or 5 buttons. You could just eliminate, you know, here's button 6 and down, get rid of that. And then I was doing a jump of 100 hertz between. Then you, if you only had 5, you could do like a 200 hertz jump between each button. So, all right. Well, I think we can go ahead and wrap this episode up. Like I said, I hope this all makes sense to you. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I don't always am able to get back immediately. Sometimes it'll take a couple of days, but I will help you out if I can. But all right, well, we're gonna wrap this up then. Next episode. I think the next episode, there's actually only two more things we need to look into before we start doing some more projects. Kind of like this, this is a fun little piano project, but I want to start doing these tutorials. We build something you can play with. But the next tutorial, I think what we're going to do is take a look at the serial monitor and also potentiometers, and we can combine both of them together for one tutorial. And then after that, I think after that we'll start playing with servos and stepper motors and start building some projects you're going to have fun with. So, all right, thanks for joining us here today. Hope to see you here for episode 9.